Good morning. Good morning. Reverend Dwight Lee Walter here at the Congregational Church of Patchogue, welcoming you to another Sunday morning of music and word and service and prayer and hopefully some happiness, joy, and Jerry Maneke is going to be joining us as the postlude, Dr. Jerry Maneke, technically, in San Diego, who's been providing music for us on his organ there. It will be the postlude, so we'll read a little piece before that, but be sure to stick around at the end of the service for Dr. Jerry Maneke on organ. So preceding the sermon, often in the Christian worship services, is a scripture. Well, this one is very, very short. It's from the 30th Psalm, and we hear in it, "Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning." Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning. I have a question for you. Why can't you tickle yourself? One more question. Where are you most ticklish? For some, they're most ticklish right above the knee. For others, it's under the arm. But for the most famous ticklish spot on the body, we turn to, of course, the feet. Imagine you're in the waiting room of a doctor's office, and instead of reading a magazine, you take off your shoes and try to tickle your own feet. You would have started that day in the doctor's office, perhaps, but very soon you're going to end up in a psych ward. Strangely, no one can tickle themselves. This is something like a gift we do to each other. No one can tickle themselves. Why? Well, one theory is just the way the brain reacts to touch, or even the slightest thought of touch. You do not need to touch someone to tickle them. With children, all you need to do is to wiggle your fingers and say, "I'm going to tickle you." And then when you get close to their body, they're already breaking out into laughter and happiness. We must, however, be very careful. This is a forewarning, and I'm serious about this. Happiness and laughter are highly contagious. In pandemic times, we need to be ultra cautious about it because happiness and laughter are highly contagious. Like a virus, without even knowing it, we can pass laughter and happiness to each other. Grown-ups can pass it to children. Children can pass it to grown-ups. You can catch it in a park or in a grocery store. Even social distancing will not stop it. Just wiggle your fingers at someone. Or when you're in a public place, take off your shoes in the aisle of King Cullen and try to tickle your own feet. And then bang, round and round it goes. Happiness runs in a circular motion. All right. Next time, don't screw it up. Little pebble upon the sand, now you're lying here in my hand. How many years have you been here? Little human upon the sand, from where my lying here in your hand. You to me are but a passing breeze. The sun will always shine where you stand, depending in which land you may find yourself. Now you have my blessing, go your way. Happiness runs in a circular motion. Thought is like a little boat upon the sea. Everybody is a part of everyone anyway. You can have everything if you let yourself be. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs in a circular motion. Thought is like a little boat upon the sea. Everybody is a part of everything anyway. You can have everything if you let yourself be. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Why, oh, because. Why, oh, because. Why, oh, because. Why, oh, because. Happiness runs in a circular motion. Thought is like a little boat upon the sea. Everybody is a part of everything anyway. You can have everything if you let yourself see. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs, happiness runs. Happiness runs in a circular motion. Thought is like a little boat upon the sea. Everybody is a part of everything anyway. You can have everything if you let yourself see. Happiness runs, happiness runs. 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 Happiness runs. Oh, I forgot we're in a church service. Oh, yeah. So, since we're in a church service, it's Sunday morning and everything like that, we should be talking about Jesus, God, prayer, the Bible. It's a church service. Let's talk about church. Let's talk about service. In the Bible, there are many references to joy, but there are very few references to laughter and happiness. In the Bible, there are many references to joy, but very few references to laughter and happiness. Maybe this is because joy is like the varsity squad of emotions, of states of being, and happiness is junior varsity. We'll find out as we unpack this. So, in the Bible, other emotions than joy and happiness and laughter. In the Bible, for example, Jesus exhibits an array of emotions other than joy. Jesus exhibits anger in many passages. For example, Jesus exhibits anger when he calls some people a brood of vipers. Vipers are poisonous snakes, and he seems to be equating not only calling somebody a poisonous snake or calling a group of people poisonous snakes, but also snake. Where in the Bible is snake? Oh yeah, back in the Garden of Eden. The snake, the serpent, is the agent of the devil, of Satan, and he has come to mess up the lives of Adam and Eve, who were otherwise just enjoying life there in Margaritaville, in the Garden of Eden. So Jesus is saying, you brood of vipers, you brood of snakes that are like the animal most associated, the reptile most associated with Satan. That's angry. Jesus also expresses anger when he overturns the table of the money changers in the temple. You want to get into some trouble? Mess with people's money. In another story, oh, I love this one. Jesus and his entourage are traveling, and Jesus gets hungry. He sees the fig tree in the distance, and he asks a follower to go and fetch him a fig. The follower does, and then comes back and says, Jesus, sorry, there are no figs on the fig tree because the figs are out of season. Furious that there are no figs on the fig tree, even after being told that figs are out of season, Jesus places a curse on the out of season figless fig tree. The curse is that figs will never again grow on that fig tree. Oy vey. Now imagine back in the day, 5 months ago or so, when we were meeting in person in this church. And imagine that I asked somebody, would you please go get me a cookie in the reception room where we're standing now? Would you please go get me a cookie? And they go and look and they come back and say, sorry, Pastor, there are no cookies left. So imagine that as punishment, I ban cookies from the church forever. Imagine if I were to pull some Pete Townsend-like guitar-smashing shtick and overturn the piano over here and set the pulpit on fire because I didn't get a cookie or a fig. Jesus also in the Bible exhibits grief and sadness. Do you know what the shortest sentence in the Bible is? It's 2 words long. Second shortest is God is love. That's 3 words long. The second shortest sentence in the Bible is Jesus wept. So in the Bible, Jesus weeps. He gets angry. He's even accused of being drunk. The Bible also shows us Jesus being accused by his own family, no less, of being crazy. A report comes to his brother and mother that Jesus is at it again, acting crazy, down somewhere, delivering a ranting, raging sermon in public, lighting his guitar on fire, and calling the people a bunch of poisonous vipers. So Mother Mary and her other son, yes, that's right, Jesus had a brother. Mother Mary is in the Bible. Jesus' mother, Mother Mary, and her other son go to find Jesus and to bring him home. It doesn't work. It's not Jesus' guitar that's on fire. It's Jesus' soul that is on fire, and he cannot be stopped. Now let's dig just a slightly bit deeper. Church doctrine, the rules, the things that, people say, this is what we believe. Church doctrine across church Christianity, there are nuances in this, but church doctrine tells us that Jesus was both fully divine and fully human. Jesus had all the attributes of God and at the same time all of the attributes of being human. So the human Jesus, cover your ears, the human Jesus undoubtedly even went to the bathroom. Well, actually, this is over 2,000 years ago, so it wasn't a bathroom. It was the bath hole in the ground. Jesus may even, the human Jesus, have snored. The divine Jesus raised the dead, walked on water, was resurrected. The divine Jesus is perfect. The human Jesus is perfectly imperfect. The Bible tells us that the human Jesus was, on occasion, angry, sad, accused of being drunk, accused of being insane. The Bible also allows Jesus to have almost a complete human experience. The Bible allows Jesus to be almost completely human, because that's what the doctrine says, fully human, fully divine. So he's fully human, except the Bible does not seem to allow Jesus to have laughed much, thus leading us to the suspicion that Jesus was seldom, if ever, happy and laughing. Therefore, if you want to be like Jesus, if I want to be like Jesus, if we want to be like Jesus, we should do all the good things that Jesus did, like patience, tolerance, humility, mercy, justice, forgiveness, love. And we too, if we want to be like Jesus, according to the Bible, can get angry, sad, drunk, and maybe even act a little crazy. And here comes the tricky part. If we want to be like Jesus, we should also sacrifice and expect to suffer a lot. I accept all of that. Implicit, however, by what's not in the Bible, which I've just been talking about, is that if we want to be like Jesus, we should sacrifice a lot and suffer a lot, but we should laugh and be happy just a little. Last week, I spoke of the similarities between Jesus and the Buddha. All the similarities last week. It's still up on my Dwight Lee Walter Facebook page if you want to view it. So there were the similarities. Now here's one difference. There are countless images of... I was raised in Japan. I've seen a lot of Buddha things, and in New York, of course, there's a lot of... Buddhism is very fashionable and in and whatever, and has been with us. Buddha lived 600 years before Jesus, so it's been around a long time. There are countless images of the smiling and laughing Buddha. I bet you have a picture of one in your head, Buddhist or not. Countless images of smiling and laughing Buddha. Where are the images of the smiling and laughing Jesus? In the Bible, Jesus told tons of stories and parables. I'm about to answer that in a way. Jesus, in the Bible, tells tons of stories and parables, but not one joke. Name one place in the Bible where Jesus says something like a rabbi, a guru, and a Samaritan walk into a bar and, obviously it's not in there. Okay, that's a bit extreme. But seriously, Jesus was fully human and fully divine, but had no sense of humor? How is that possible? Having no sense of humor is like having no head. I am willing to bet you 10 figs that Jesus had a sense of humor. If Jesus could walk on water and raise the dead, he could crack a joke. And in order to get through the life that he was living, which was not an easy one, you'd have to have a sense of levity and humor. You'd have to be able to laugh. So why is Jesus in the Bible always so serious? The disciples must have once in a while laughed at him and advised Jesus to lighten up a little. Jesus must have laughed at himself, if rarely. Come on. Placing an eternal curse on a fig tree because the fruit is out of season and you can't get it when you want it. Come on. Oy vey. Perhaps Jesus was surrounded by zealots and sourpusses. They still exist in the churches, by the way. They still exist everywhere. Sourpusses, zealots, who are trying to get you to stop having fun so that they don't have to work on themselves to have fun. Perhaps Jesus' sense of humor was deleted by the humorless editors who put the Bible together. They pulled out their celibate little erasers and took the fun out of the stories they were writing down. Jesus having a sense of humor may have been more threatening to them than Jesus having a temper, periods of grief and sadness, a drinking problem, or being accused of being out of his mind by his own family who felt they had to go rescue him in the middle of one of them. Can you imagine if my family shows up and tries to drag me out of one of my sermons because it's going over so poorly and I'm scaring people and infuriating them? That would be a good day, actually. But imagine that. With all hell breaking loose on earth, could they show Jesus happy, laughing and dancing under a party ball? Why not? Now, the early writers of the Christian Bible had it rough. The Bible, the earliest accounts, like the Gospel of Mark, began, let's say, 35 to 50 years after the death of Jesus, when they finally said, we got to write this stuff down. This is amazing. And then they went in the 300s, 400s, extreme persecution. So I'm not saying that the desire and the need to sacrifice, the willingness to die for what you believe in, the need for mercy, the need for standing tough under persecution of the Roman Empire. I'm not saying that that was fluff and we should go, ha, 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 ha. No, I'm not saying that at all. So I'll cut them some slack in the way that this was recorded and canonized, which means they wrote it in the Bible. It's closed. You can't put anything in it. You can't slip in a little more humor. The discovered jokes of Jesus or something, you can't put them in the Bible. Okay, I get it. Perhaps the people who wrote down the stories of Jesus in the Bible thought that there should be a stronger association between Christianity and suffering, because they were suffering a lot. So we need to have suffering, Christ, Christianity, a strong connection, not so much a strong connection between Christianity, Jesus the Christ, and joy, happiness, and laughter. And I wonder about that decision. While writing this, I looked into a Merriam-Webster dictionary and looked up the antonyms, or the opposites, of the word suffering. Antonyms for suffering, opposites for suffering. And I got all these different responses, several words. Two of the words for what the opposite of suffering is were joy and happiness. The opposite of suffering is not stoicism or even forgiveness. The opposite of suffering is joy and happiness. So we do not disrespect the suffering of others by insisting on being joyful and happy in the midst of it. By insisting of being joyful and happy even while loving and caring for people who are suffering lessens the suffering. A few days ago, in a hurricane, Craig, by the way, just got, our incredible singer and pianist and organist and choir director here, Craig just got his electricity back after like 6 days, still has no internet connection or anything in his home. And so the 91-year-old guy, 90-year-old guy who is a member of the church, lives alone, no phone, no computer, no electricity, there by himself, doing okay. We have a picture of him standing. He was so happy that we came to check up on him. So in a hurricane, during a global pandemic, in a time of political and economic upheaval, with no electricity, and even worse, no figs, the only thing, it seemed to me, that could make life even worse is if we could not find somehow some humor in this difficult and absurd situation that we were going through, and to lighten up on each other. People saying to me, well, when are we going to open the church? Well, if the federal government doesn't know, do you think Dwight Lee Walter does? I mean, give me a break. But that's a human tendency to turn on each other and get really serious. Because the more serious we get about suffering, the closer we'll get to the conclusion. No, not necessarily. The closer we'll get to drunkenness, grief, sadness, anger. If we can find some humor in difficult and absurd situations that we're going through right now. Now, for example, isn't it hilarious that so many people still deeply believe in miracles? In a time like this, some people laugh at people who believe in miracles. Laugh at them. I think they should be rewarded and thanked that people keep their vision, keep their connection with miracles, believe that you can pull water out of a rock, that we can walk on water, that we can raise the dead parts within ourselves back to life again and not succumb to the myths that we're all going down and we have to defend ourselves with machine guns because somebody might steal our figs. No, not necessarily. Isn't it absurd? It's absurd that we still find hope in a time like this. Isn't it insane that in a time of financial troubles, when this church has been closed for 5 months, that we are still plotting and planning on how to give things away to people who are in need? That's hilarious. Go to a job interview at a bank and tell them that you have a PhD in giving away money to people, even when you were in the middle of a recession. Somehow that second interview doesn't come through. J.D. Salinger said in his book, Catcher in the Rye, which, by the way, is the book that John Lennon, that the killer of John Lennon, stood in the driveway and was reading Catcher in the Rye, bizarrely, when waiting for the police to come and pick him up. I wonder why I said that. So J.D. Salinger, in his book, Catcher in the Rye, talked about the difference between joy and happiness. And he said that the difference between joy and happiness, this guy's an unbelievable pillar of American literature, obviously. Whether you've read him or not, you've heard of him. J.D. Salinger said that happiness is a solid, whereas joy is a liquid. Wow. I thought and meditated on that. What does that mean? Happiness is a solid and joy is a liquid. But it makes sense. Happiness is a solid that is based on feelings and situations and people. My family did what I said or came to visit me, I'm happy. I feel good and grateful and that somebody did something and that things worked out, so I'm happy and I'm smiling and I'm laughing. Well, do the happy dance because we got out of the recession, we got out of the pandemic. Smile, laugh, happy, dance. I get that. It's a solid based in feelings, situations, people. Whereas joy is based in the blessed assurance that, as the old hymn says, that so many people who don't go to church like to laugh at or ignore. This old hymn says something that is so beautiful. It says, "It is well with my soul." It doesn't say because I got a $600 bonus. It doesn't say because I got my girl back. It doesn't say because of the wonderful things he does. It doesn't say any of that. It says, it is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul, no matter what's going on with feelings and situations and people. Not all the time, not for me, maybe not for you, but it's there. It's a reality I can touch, tap into, because joy is always there. Happiness isn't always there. Joy is always there, available to you and to me. Happiness occurs when you get that buzz. Joy does not even occur because it never goes away. It flows like sweet air over everything. Just for today, as I conclude here, suffice it to say that in these absurd and difficult times, we would be wise to exercise, eat well, get enough sleep, pray, read encouraging words, especially before bedtime or when you just get up, and look to joy as a spiritual discipline. If you can do yoga, you can do joy. As a matter of fact, it's easier to practice joy as a spiritual exercise than it is to practice yoga. Make joy as much a component of your life as breathing or brushing your teeth. Happiness comes and goes, but joy comes in the morning and stays with us, even in these absurd, difficult, but also interesting and profoundly spiritual times. Are we supposed to do a song now? Okay, good. I bet you're ready for that. I am. Okay, Craig, let's hear a song that, I hope it's something, I hope it's not depressing. Or angry or drunken or full of grief or, I just can't handle it. Do you have something nice for us? I do. Okay, very good.
shine. God gave it to me, I'm gonna let it shine. God gave it to me, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Over 2,000 years ago, the disciples said to Jesus, how do we pray? You keep talking about this. What do we say? And there are various versions of this. There was no tape recording, no Zoom in those days. But he said, pray this. Now, using whatever words with which you may be most familiar, let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Now do yourself a favor. I want you to hang on for like 2.5 more minutes as Dr. Jerry Manicky in San Diego is going to be playing Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, which is originally written by Beethoven and performed by Dr. Manicky. Dr. Manicky wrote, I am proud to present the premiere of Prelude Fanfare on Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee to you, and dedicated to our church and its minister, Reverend Dwight D. Walter. The piece begins with a fanfare on an organ trumpet, followed by a nod to the Ode to Joy march in Beethoven's Great Ninth Symphony. I then play the hymn straight away. It would thrill me if I were to hear that some folks sang along wherever they are as I played. If you can't remember the words, just make something up with the word joy in it. Let's make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Do yourself a favor, and I will do myself a favor and take my seat and close my eyes and listen to Dr. Gerald Manicky perform Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, and then we'll close out with a benediction. Well, thank you to Dr. Gerald Manicky for that performance. And I have to tell you, Jerry, I got a deep resentment over that. I'm sorry, but I did. You're the anesthesiologist. I'm the preacher. You wake everybody up in this church service, and I put them to sleep. There's something funny about that. If I don't find humor in that, it's just going to hurt me so deeply. I love my jokes. God bless you, Jerry, and thank you. And we'll continue to enjoy your musical contributions. So in our going, may the light of God shine down upon you. And as I usually say, and bring you peace. But today I add, may the light of God shine down upon you, and may part of that light be lightening up and giving each other some slack and looking for or allowing it to percolate up the joy and the laughter and the happiness that is embedded in even the darkest of times. These are interesting times, and we are blessed to be here with each other. We'll see you next Sunday when we talk about Ezekiel chapter 37, the Valley of Dry Bones, and you get to hear Craig and I sing, "Them bones, them dry bones." Peace. See you soon.